Delegate Impolari is coming. Delegate Lasanti, your video is not on.
Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us for the Harford County Delegation meeting this week. Welcome. We have a panel this morning from our Sheriff Jeff Gaylor. So we'll be hearing him shortly. But first, we're going to go down the agenda, and I'm going to have Delegate Mike Griffith to lead us in a word of prayer.
Thank you. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to serve this morning. Please give us the humility to remember why we are here. Please give us the wisdom to see the right and the courage to do it. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Delegate Griffith. And now I'm going to have Delegate she's going to lead us in the pledge.
Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the official meeting is called to order, and we will go straight down the agenda. Old business first, I would need a motion to approve last week's minutes. So I have a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
I heard, hold on.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Delegate Impalaria made the first. I believe Delegate Griffith did the second.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody just with an aye, if you approve the minutes. Aye. Okay. Are there any nays? No nays. Okay. So the minutes have been approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now we're going to move over to HB 1100. This is the gift basket permit bill. We thought we were finished with this one, but I did have the hearing in Economic Matters on Friday. And the committee members had suggested that we missed putting in there the what's called the alcohol awareness training requirements that has to be in every liquor license now. So we had to draw up an amendment. Thank you, Charity. She worked very swiftly in getting that for us. Thank you for your help. So she's provided us the amendment there. You see it, it was in your packet. Basically, it's just adding is subject, the license holder is, or an employee is subject to the alcohol awareness training requirement under the current law. So that was there. And then she also sent us the reprint where it would show up in the synopsis and so forth. So now we're in session and we have a question from Delegate Impalaria. Please unmute.
Yes, yes, I did. So anyway, it came to my thought, do we have a limit on how much alcohol they can deliver at one time in this bill? Charity?
Yeah. Yes, we do. It's right in the bill.
Because I don't have it in front of me. I just wanted to make sure that they couldn't,
Yes.
10 cases with a box of.
Okay. Okay. For beer, it's 72 ounces of beer.
Okay.
It's 2.25 liters of wine and 2.25 liters of liquor.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We have a question from Delegate Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you know by any chance how much that alcohol training costs?
I do not. Delegate Impalaria, would you know that answer being on the committee? No. I don't think it's very much, and they can do it online. I do know that. It's very reasonable if I don't know. I'm not sure. We can find that out. Chair, no?
I could find it out. I'll pull it up while you continue the discussion, and I'll come up with the
Great.
answer.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
The one interesting twist to it, and I'm not against the bill, is the fact that many times you're delivering it to a person who does not know they're getting it. So,
yeah.
And with all other deliveries, you're supposed to make sure that the person ordering is the person who's.
Yeah.
So, but with that small amount of alcohol, I don't have a problem with this.
Thank you. Okay. And it looks like Delegate Lasanti, you got your hand fixed. Great. Please unmute yourself. You're next.
I did. Thank you. Just a quick question. I know it's a state law that the training is required. So I'm curious as to why we have to do this, why we have to amend it on all bills. I would just think that it would be
Automatic.
automatic. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. Now, the other bill we had, we did have it in the bill.
right.
I went back and, you know, it seems like it was in there in a lot of other cases and we did not put it in this one, you know, and I guess that was probably.
I mean, Charity, isn't it?
Well,
She's
in this case, these permit holders for the gift baskets, they're not already licensed to serve or sell alcohol.
oh, because we're creating.
They're flower shops.
Gotcha. Got it.
And just on
Makes
I haven't been able to find how much the alcohol awareness training cost. It's not in the statute, so I'd have to dig a little deeper and I can get back
Right.
to you.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay, so it looks like that's finished with the discussion. Now I need a motion to approve the amendment and a second.
Motion to approve the amendment.
Okay, so we have a first, Delegate Johnson and Delegate McComas. I saw your hand. You want a second? Delegate McComas, second the motion. Okay, and I guess Cindy, could you take the roll call?
Delegate McComas,
She said aye.
Delegate Arcan,
Aye.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Impalaria,
Yes.
Delegate Johnson,
Aye.
Delegate Lasanti,
Yes.
Delegate Shalega,
Yes.
Delegate Riley.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, now do I have a motion to approve the bill as amended?
Motion to approve the bill as amendment.
Okay, I heard
Second.
Delegate Impalaria was first on the first and Delegate McComas was the second.
Madam Chair, before we go forward, I just want to say something to our esteemed counsel here that's been doing a great job. She may want to just call the 410-879-2000 and call the board, the alcohol control board, and see how much it costs. And that way she doesn't have to go through a lot of stuff. And so make it easy for us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I assume that the county exchange can give you the number without a big hassle.
Okay.
To accept the bill as a delegation, bill as amended, otherwise we have taken up third vote.
Okay, now on this, I think we have a first and a second. But it looks like maybe because we have to do two votes because we voted as, I believe it's already a delegation bill. So Chair, just confirm this. If we just have the motion that is on the table now that we have a first and a second to approve the bill as amended, do we have to come back and do it as a delegation bill or is this all one shot?
I think you could do it in all
It's on
one
the
shot.
delegation.
Okay, thank you
Yes.
very much. Just want to clarify that. So the is to approve the bill as amended and also as a Harford County delegation bill. Okay, and Cindy, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, Delegate McComas,
Aye.
Delegate Arcan,
Aye.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Impalaria,
Yes.
Delegate Johnson,
Aye.
Delegate Lasanti,
Yes.
Delegate Shalega,
Yes.
Delegate Riley.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, so we are finished with HB 1100. Thank you very much. Our gift basket that has proved. So we're going to move on to new business. And we do have our sheriff from Harford County, Sheriff Jeff Gaylor, and he's going to speak along the lines of all of the bills that we have in for law enforcement. So Sheriff, you're
Good
on.
morning, Madam Chair and members of the delegation. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is the video seems really odd. This is the worst Zoom feed I've had in quite a while, but if you can hear me okay, we're good to go. Thank you for allowing me some time this morning to speak about some of the legislation going on under what I would call the false banner of police reform for many of the bills that they're just that bad. They do nothing to reform policing or make policing better. In fact, they'll do just the opposite. They'll make policing worse. They'll make our police officers less proactive in doing their job, and they'll make our communities less safe. If you saw, I did a video last week that we shared on our social media platforms here from the sheriff's office. And I'm pleased to say, overwhelmingly our community, although there were some naysayers amongst the responses, the vast majority of the responses were favorable and in support of the comments I made. And the video had over 75,000 views and a reach of more than 100,000 people. And in the video, I spoke about you all and other members of the elected leaders in Annapolis. You see me and Eric in Annapolis each year. You see other members from the chiefs and the sheriffs in Annapolis each year working on legislative issues related to public safety, bills that will improve public safety, but also bills that will make policing more transparent, better, allow chiefs and sheriffs to have better control over their organization. We have never resisted or hesitated to work with any elected official and anyone in this meeting on those goals. But again, some of this legislation just goes way too far. And I'm going to start with the what's been done under the false banner of LEOBR, Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, is this terrible thing that lets police officers get away with provides them with special rights that the citizens aren't afforded during some sort of thing that is mostly a criminal thing, which is complete falsity. It's not the fact whatsoever. The Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights has been around, I think, for 45 years. And through those 45 years, and I can tell you 28 years with the state police and 6 years now as your sheriff, I have never been involved in a case where we have had a problem holding a police officer accountable up to and including termination cases, acting within the confines of LEOBR. And the only thing I will say is if they made a mistake 45 years ago, that was that they didn't name it the Law Enforcement Officers Accountability Act. They named it the Police Officers Bill of Rights and gave this false perception that is being sold against policing, that it gives police officers some special rights that our citizens don't have, which again is not true. One of the things the chiefs and sheriffs have sought in past years to make LEOBR better is subpoena power, so that we would have the ability to mandate attendance at hearings or records, which has never been given to the chiefs and sheriffs, an authority which has never been given. So there are ways, and again, we're not resistant to making it better, but unfortunately it's come under attack, and I have no doubt that we're going to see it go because it's been that strongly attacked. But with it going, it is vastly important that we bring something back in its place that allows the chiefs and the sheriffs to have control over their police departments. And there are a lot of things in House Bill 670, and I confused the bill numbers because there's over 30 pieces of legislation this year in Annapolis that are dealing with, again, quote unquote, police reform, that do not leave the chief, and there's proposals that do not leave the chief or the sheriff with the ability to police or have a say over the discipline within their agency. And, that is, to me, an unacceptable standard. I've been elected by the citizens of Harford County. I have no problem removing police officers who should not be on the street. But I also have no problem with defending the good work of the men and women who are out there trying to make our communities better. Just a couple others, the bills that would remove, either restrict or completely remove SROs from our schools. You all know just 3 years ago, after a large town hall, the county executive committed to not removing, but the opposite of expanding our SRO program, which was demanded by our Harford County community. Our SRO program here at the Sheriff's Office has been in existence for more than 20 years and receives, for the most part, nothing but accolades. I can tell you, I can't think of getting a complaint on one of our school resource officers from the Sheriff's Office in my 6 years as being sheriff. So I don't know what they see in other jurisdictions for all of these bills, and particularly one jurisdiction where we know all this legislation stems from things that happen in that jurisdiction without naming it. I think we all know which one I'm referring to. I'd like to see the legislature pass something that say, let's just do it locally. Let's just do it there and see how well it works. It's not going to work well. We know what's going to happen. More people are going to die. But let's do it there before we mandate the rest of the state do some of this outright crazy stuff. The bill that would allow habitual drug users, we can debate the merits of marijuana use, but currently the police officers training commission has a 3-year standard. If you've used marijuana within the last 3 years, you can't be a police officer. You could have used it 1,000 times 5 years ago, and we will hire you. It shows that buffer shows a pattern of changed behavior, of not judgment. So they want to change that, of course, to that someone, I gave the example in my video, someone smoking a marijuana cigarette on the front porch of our headquarters building and then walking in to apply for a job. That is not the police officer, the judgment of an individual, I think, that we want to give a badge and a gun to and have them go out and solve citizens' problems. The bill that removes, and this might be part of 670 as well, many police experts from the Police Training Commission and replaces them with civilians who can't have any connection to law enforcement, again, is completely the wrong way to go, in my opinion. I gave the example of nurses and doctors with the medical boards being replaced nurses and doctors on the medical boards with the lunch lady. And again, my mom, we had one person take offense to that out of 100,000, but my mom was a lunch lady. And I said, God bless the lunch lady. They have a role in our society and a very important job to feed our children, but they are not the experts that we want reviewing medical procedures. And uninformed citizens just coming to the board because they have no connection or experience in law enforcement is completely the wrong direction to take. I'll end with qualified immunity. Again, this is another one that has just been intentionally mislabeled, deceitfully, I would say, that qualified immunity gets police officers out of, they can commit a murder and they're immune from civil liability. Well, that's 100% true. And I think everybody on this call realizes and knows that qualified immunity does not apply in the commission of a criminal act or if an act committed in gross negligence. Those two facts are something that's left out every time they attack qualified immunity. So again, I think there's some good things down there this year. The body camera bill, certainly something we support. We've been after body cameras for many years here. The county executive has committed to funding. We've been through several presentations and we plan to roll out 300 body cameras over the next couple of years here at the sheriff's office. There is a large expense to the taxpayers for that. So I know for the bill, they're seeking some source of funding. So I'm sure our county executive also hopes that will come. Again, I think you could address LEOBR by giving the chiefs and sheriffs subpoena power. And I think a standardized use of force, although I hate the use of force bill, I think a standardized use of force across all 150 some police departments in the state of Maryland is not a bad thing, so long as it's the right thing. And you have the whole issue with them trying to input the word necessary. That's not what the Supreme Court standard is. Reasonable under the circumstances is where it should stay because that's what the Supreme Court has said. But when you make it necessary with the value of hindsight, again, that is just not fair to our police officers. And all of these bills are going to lead to even less men and women applying to a career in public safety. So I hope I was somewhat succinct, and I'm happy to take any questions if there's something I didn't touch on. And I think Eric's on the call as well. If I can't answer it, one of us can.
Hey, thank you, Sheriff Gaylor, for that great presentation. I do have a question from Delegate Lasanti in reference to when you mentioned the video. I'm sure that video is still on your site.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way that you can send the link to us that we could, send that out, or just you would rather prefer us just go to your site?
Oh, no, happy to send it. It's on our social media platform, so it's on Facebook, but I will have Eric send the link to every member of the delegation.
Okay, because some of us don't do Facebook a whole lot, so the link would be great. We appreciate
Those would
that.
be the smart ones. I'm not one of the smart ones. I have a Facebook.
You do. But you used it well, so thank you. So we'll look forward to that. And also another request that I have, would it be possible for you to send like a sheriff's official letter of opposition and list the bill numbers and the titles, whether you support or oppose? Because like you said, there's over 30 some, to give us a better idea. I know we have 3 wonderful delegates that are on that committee, which is great for Harford County, and they're fighting very hard. But the rest of us, we don't want one getting by. So.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned that. I certainly appreciate the work of Delegate Erican, Griffith, McComas, and Slega, and Delegate Riley. I think you were on the summer work group. All of our delegation, certainly, we know at the Sheriff's Office that, all of our Harford County delegations support the men and women here. It's a shame that politics comes into policing. And this year, more than other years, we know we have good men and women out there on the street. And I got to say, Senator Castley has been a champion over there on the Senate side of things. I don't think he's on this call,
Absolutely.
but he has certainly been, the chiefs and sheriffs have been very complimentary of his informed efforts, because so much of this is just, delegates and senators from other areas of the state who aren't informed of policing issues.
Right.
And he brings that, I guess, I don't want to say expertise, but he brings that knowledge to the table and presents it very well. So thank you all for your efforts. I should have started with that.
Okay, thank you.
But I will try to get you. I will try to get you something in writing. It's tough because the chiefs and sheriffs and Eric and I are in that work group. We want to work well with all of our elected leaders, not just those that we happen to get along with, you all, but we want to work well with all of them. But some of this legislation is not going to make our public more safe.
Okay. All right. We appreciate that. We have 4 questions. I believe I'm going to say the names first. I'm going to go with Delegate Johnson, and then Arakan, and then
Delegate Arakan was next.
Was next. So Arakan was before Johnson. Okay. So we're Arakan, then.
No. Delegate Johnson, Delegate Arakan, and then Delegate Lasanti, I think.
Okay. Well, that's what I
And
said.
then Delegate
Okay.
McComb.
Yes, correct. All right. Delegate Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, Delegate Arakan, I think you were first, but I'll go ahead. Sheriff, I know in a lot of this police reform bills, they've referred to this this article, and I've read the article, and on the SROs, in the article, it states that in some schools that since we've had SROs, they've had an increase in arrests and referrals. Can you tell us, have we experienced that in Harford County?
I don't think we've had it for 20 years. There are arrests that take place. Most of we do have those numbers. I'll have to have Eric send them down to you, Delegate Johnson. I don't think we've seen like a spike the last few years when policing has become supposedly so bad. I think we have seen every year you're going to see something. I think the important thing to note, and unfortunately our stats do not break this down, but talking to the SROs, the vast majority of these are not police officers patrolling the grounds of the school, walking around looking for trouble. It's the administrators or the teachers calling, or parents coming to the school to report something after the fact. It's initiated by someone other than the police officer. And I wish, going back 20 years, that we tracked that stat, because it would be a very important number this year to show that this, if there's concerns of disparity, that it's not the police officer, it's the response to the call for service. And again, if you didn't have, on those type of calls, if you didn't have the SRO in the school, the police would still come. If the parent came into school to report an assault that happened the day before, or if a teacher found drugs in a locker, or if there was an assault on school property, they're still going to report it to the police, and the police are going to come to the building. You're just going to, on these bills, you're going to lose the SRO. That deterrent factor of having the police car there, the would-be assailant knowing that there's a defense for that school should they decide to attack it, and then that actual first line of defense if it comes to it. So you're going to lose those stuff if we lose our SROs.
And that was part of my follow-up are there defined job description or duties that the SROs follow, what they're in the school for versus the administration using them for every disciplinary problem?
So,
I'll have
can
to,
I take that one real quick?
yes, you can. I know there's unique training. Go ahead, Eric.
Sure. So all of our SROs, and I think that's the important thing, going back to your last question as well, to keep in mind here, all of these SROs volunteer for this specialized unit, and SROs are a specialized unit. They receive training through the National Association of School Resource Officers, and that association prides themselves on trying to train police officers to de-escalate situations and stay away from charging juveniles and individuals. And I think that's what you've seen with SROs. And I guess the best example I can give you is, a fight in high school. They happen quite frequently, unfortunately. And kid gets knocked out by another kid. If a regular patrol deputy is called to respond to that incident, 9 times out of 10, both of those individuals, if they both threw punches, are probably going to get charged, and they're going to go through the legal system. The SRO is looking to make it as least impactful for both of those kids, probably knowing their home situations, knowing situations that they're in. So they're going to try to work without going through the legal system to make sure they get punished, but also try to keep them out of the legal system. So I think that's the difference that you're seeing. When you're taking these SROs out of the building, you're taking individuals out that are specially trained in how to deal with these kids. And most of them end up becoming like counselors and mentors to the students in there, at least here in Harford County.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Hey, you're
Thanks,
welcome. Now, Delegate Arcan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm so glad to see my great sheriff here. I'm so proud to live in Harford County, especially in these weird times. Living under Sheriff Taylor's watchful eye has made my husband and my family and I feel so much better. So we are fighting like crazy here for you on the public safety subcommittee. And as you know, we're settled into another one on Friday. We're going to be meeting again. I just wanted to find out, okay, so we aren't dealing with the SRO one because that's in Ways and Means, but I do have a couple questions about that because it's important to my constituents who like SROs, love them in fact. If we lose them, what happens to the guys who have that job? Do they get enveloped back into the department, or do you not have a job for these guys if we're forced to get rid of the program?
No, I would certainly hope that through attrition, the county executive would find a way to fund those positions, and through attrition, we would reabsorb them in. I've made no secret of the fact the sheriff's offices, county's growing, the sheriff's office is growing. I would like to see a central or eastern precinct in the county. So I've jokingly said, we could take those 19 people and it'd be the beginning of our new precinct. But it is entirely the wrong way to go.
Oh, I completely agree. Maybe we could, I'm just spitballing, but if they take away our SROs, couldn't we technically just post patrol out front of the schools? I mean, can they tell us not to post patrol places? What could we do to still protect our children?
Yeah, the one bill goes as far as to say the SRO, even in an emergency, so if there's an active shooter situation in the school, the SRO, while this bill still has the SROs, they have to stay outside the school in plain clothes and wait to come in on that active shooter incident until someone from the administration of the school calls and asks them to come. Meanwhile, patrol is going to be responding from somewhere far, further away, but they're going to run right past that deputy who's still waiting for the call. Even if
It's
like
that
bill
exactly what happened in Parkland with everybody standing outside.
Yes.
What a nightmare.
I would not leave SROs in the schools if that were to pass, because that is not a true SRO. That police officer is severely handcuffed when you can't come to the defense of our students and staff at the school. So we would routinely patrol the schools, but you would not have that police presence. And as Eric said, the deputies in the schools and the SROs across the state, they do so much more. And I can't say for every jurisdiction, but again, if you're having problems in a local jurisdiction, then let that local jurisdiction deal with it. I don't think it. I know it's the wrong move for us, and that we've received letters, and we've received input after putting the video out there. We did a post the week before about SROs, and overwhelmingly, again, the community supports. They asked for it, they got it. Again, the county executive funded it, and they got the expansion of the program. And here we are 3 years later, and every delegate in Annapolis voted for it, but now some have changed their mind. There's no loss of irony there either.
I know, it's amazing how quickly the wind turns down here. So my
Right.
final question, and this is more about 670. I know that on some of the topics, as you mentioned, you've broken from the chiefs and sheriffs recommendations. If you have a list of, those differences, things that you still don't feel comfortable with, and you do feel comfortable sending that to me, I would love to just have that in my file when I go down, so that I can really weigh the negotiations, and I think you and I are very similarly thought. We think very similarly about these issues. So having your opinion on this would be very, very helpful, including all the stakeholders, but just yours specifically would be very, very, very helpful.
And I really only think that, I don't really think there's a break so much. There's probably points that we disagree with the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association, but Eric and I have had many conversations. Of course, as you all well know, the Chiefs and Sheriffs have put their letters in their testimony as support with amendments. I think it should have come in as, not supporting with amendments. That would have been, that's where we disagree the most on whether we should have said support or not support, because I do believe that there's an effort to make sure that Chiefs and Sheriffs remain at the table and don't get closed out. But I as an elected person, I fully believe that our citizens have a right to know what's going on. And again, it's back to the reason why we did the video. But yeah, we will get you all some points on where we may differ from the Chiefs and Sheriffs completely.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I appreciate you having you here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Arcan. Now we go to Delegate Lasanti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Sheriff. Good to see you.
Good morning. Nice to see you. I'm going to flip over so I can see you. I see you now.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple of quick things. Back to the SRO a little bit. I'm on Ways and Means and did my best to try to articulate what we have seen as the community benefit of SROs. It was a very, because I've experienced them not only in Havre Grace, but certainly with the Sheriff's Office and being on the County Council. And they are very important to our community, and they're very important to all of our students. But there was a premise that was made in this bill that really is bothersome to me. And the premise of this, of the sponsors of each one of these bills, is that the presence of law enforcement in our school system is the single contributory factor to the increase of arrest rates among minority children. And then I asked the sponsors to provide data for that. And I took it a little bit farther to say that, okay, if that's your premise, then if you remove law enforcement from schools, will then the arrest rate decline? And the answer was no, which was a little bit confusing to me, if that was the baseline premise. So my question to you is, do you have some data that you could provide to us about on that subject? Because the things that I found in all of this conversation, there was a lot of opinion, there was a lot of subjecture, but there was not a lot of data or there was not a lot of data analysis, and there was not a lot of subject matter. There was no subject matter experts that came to the hearing to talk about the cause and effect.
Right. And to your question, Delegate Lasanti, I have seen no study or anything in support of that. I've heard the same tiresome tagline that the school to prison pipeline, and it starts with the SRO. And again, I think that is not factual at all. You are right, as I said to Delegate Johnson, that these same incidents, that the vast majority, and I wish I had stats to support this, but we know the vast majority from talking to our SROs are school generated. It's the teachers, it's parents coming in, it's the administration calling for the police, and that's still going to happen. So, and the vast majority of those charged are charged on a juvenile referral. So,
Sure.
it's not, locking somebody up, bringing them out of the school in handcuffs. That does happen on rare times. And I think, Eric, we'll get you those numbers. I want to say it was 4 times last year in Harford County Public Schools where someone was taken out in handcuffs. But the vast majority is just a paperwork arrest where, Joey and Billy got into a fight and Joey and Billy are referred to juvenile services. Because the parents reported it or something. So I have not seen a study that supports that demeaning language toward the program, and I don't believe it one bit.
Okay. And the final question is, and I guess maybe it's more of a request than a question is, and it probably is going to come through your liaison, but obviously, there's so many bills and there's a lot of information floating around about Senate bills, but there's a lot going on in the House, and we do have 3 members on the committee that I know are very much engaged. But for those of us who are not on the committee, what I'm seeing from the outside is that outside of the committee is that things are being moved very quickly, and that amendments are being dropped on bills at the last minute. And so even with our own colleagues who we talk to all the time, it's very difficult to keep ahead of things. Like I know there's one on the floor today, House Bill 11, that seemed rather innocuous about, which would, most of it would be considered a general order. That would prohibit law enforcement from having sex with victims, witnesses, or suspects. But I believe there was a last minute amendment to the bill that struck a portion of it that was the exception for prior existing relationships, which is a little confusing to me of how that would affect small departments. I mean, I'm thinking about small municipal departments that might have 10 employees who may have an ex-wife that comes in to report something, and they're going to be the investigating officer, and really the person was a victim. How does that play out?
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that bill. I have heard some stirrings around it, but I'm not familiar. I haven't read that bill. But yes, I know that the chiefs and the sheriffs, and Eric, if you can weigh in better, the chiefs and sheriffs had concerns that there are going to be normal, not relationships that shouldn't be prohibited or aren't going against any moral or ethical thing that are going to be all of a sudden criminalized by I think it's that specific bill.
Yeah.
Eric?
Okay. I mean, I think we all understand a general order is you do not, this is the conduct you do not engage in. And I think all law enforcement in Maryland has very strict procedures on that. It's this other stuff. And so with moving targets like this, I just think it's really, really critical to know when these last minute changes that really impact the outcome of a bill, that we get any information that you can share with us in advance. As this ball is moving very quickly, it's helpful. Thank you.
You're 100% right. Everything is, we can't get copies of the amendments before we hear about them being read on in the different hearings. So it's moving so fast. It is hard to keep up. And with COVID on top of it, it's more than other years. It's so difficult to try to keep up to the changes. But I we'll do our best to keep up and keep you informed the best we can. But we are having the same issue.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Lasanti. And now we go to Delegate McComas. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, Sheriff, you're doing a great job. Unfortunately, the rest of the state doesn't think you do a great job. Really concerns me is the fact that we are standardizing all across the state things that just don't play well in Harford County and are really going to endanger our citizens. So I'm wondering if somehow we can get some kind of movement with the other chiefs and sheriffs to move their delegates off of this statewide stuff. I mean, we're taking, basically what's going on is we're taking away local control of one of the most important duties of government, which is to protect its citizens and to make sure that there's law and order. So, okay, I'll get off my soapbox. and say what we need. We are being just hammered with all these crazy things. And we've got the Senate bills that are going to be coming over, and they're different than the House, because we're working off 670 and 671. And those are the speaker's bills. And so that's the vehicle. So the question is, we sort of need to know where are the good pressure points. And certainly I'm not a law enforcement officer, don't have the training or experience. So really we need input as far as where are good pressure points to just really hold the line as best we can, because otherwise we're outgunned, and everything is looked through a equity lens now. Has nothing to do with what's safe for people. It's equity, equity, equity. So I just kind of wanted to say that to you. It's very important. We need any and all advice and help. And I know you've been very helpful to my colleagues on the public safety subcommittee, and just want to thank you for all your work. And but we're in for a real dogfight here. And this is really an assault to local control and local justice. And I mean, it has nothing, and to do away with the LEOBR, Bob and I put in the bill to replace it with a uniform disciplinary practice. I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but who knows? So I just want to thank you for your work.
But I appreciate it. Now, yeah, I do realize that in some parts of the state, they look at me and they say, he's out there. I do know many other sheriffs and chiefs share our beliefs, and certainly a lot of the chiefs aren't free to speak as much as freely as an elected sheriff. But I will certainly put our crime numbers, which have been declining for 6 years, to all-time record low at the end of last year, since uniform crime reporting began, an all-time record low again at the end of last year, up against these other jurisdictions where, regardless, when they're only worried about, and not that it shouldn't be considered, but when their only focus is, equity or looking at the police as the enemy, they are not going to serve the public's needs and public safety, and you're going to see more of a loss of life and higher crime rate. And that's what they have in those jurisdictions, and that's unfortunate. You all know Eric is always available. I do my best to be always available, but if you can't get me, Eric's always available. I can't tell you, this year more than ever, we've been on calls with the Chiefs and Sheriffs legislative group, and they are appreciative of everybody that's going to fight. Again, not just because some of the bills are bad, but going to fight for those police officers who are out there trying to do a good job. None of us want to defend bad cops, and I'm happy to get rid of them. I have, and I will continue to if they make it into our ranks. And I could do that with LEOBR. But we will do our best to keep you. Again, it's moving so fast. We'll do our best to keep you informed. We are very concerned. We were on a call last night about the conference. It's called a conference committee when the two bills come together, about what that's going to look like, who's going to comprise it, and kind of steer the ship as they bring the House side and the Senate side bills to some central area. And that's a scary proposition, but we'll try to get you some information to help fight the very bad points.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff Gaylor. We have another question from Delegate Mike Griffith.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sheriff, for being here and everything you do for the county. Just very briefly, and again, with myself, Delegate Erickson, and Delegate McComas all on that public safety subcommittee addressing these issues. It's certainly been an interesting conversation, and we're working through it. We're doing everything we can to support you. It's funny we're talking about the SRO thing. I actually have an op-ed coming out in the Sun tomorrow about SROs and the need for them. One of the areas in the testimony that I took exception to by some of the advocates, and as a father of special needs kids, they claim that special needs kids are at a particular disadvantage with SROs because it doesn't facilitate, as they claim, the school to prison pipeline for special needs kids. I push back on that pretty hard because how I see it, an SRO would know that this kid is having an outburst, would know their history, would know their situation, handled much more appropriate versus having to call law enforcement from the outside who would not have a relationship and a pre-understanding of the nature of this child's situation. So I took, I take exception to that. Could you speak to that a little bit, please?
I agree with you 100%. Again, Eric kind of went through some of the training. Our SROs received the national training before it was mandatory, and then it became mandatory under the Safe Schools Act 3 years ago, I think it was. So all of our SROs who had already been trained repeated that, and all of our new SROs go to that. And so much of that centers around, as Eric said, de-escalation, dealing with issues, mental health. That's all through our society, and the schools aren't immune. You have to, and again, it's a value. It's community policing in a school. So there's a value of that officer or deputy knowing that student body, that community, that student body of the school, so that they know if Joey acts out, maybe Joey has some other issues, that he's just not being, if he does something that someone else might do that's a crime, that he has some issues that make it, that the officer recognizes and understands right off the bat, and isn't coming in cold off the street just because he was assigned that patrol sector that day. So yeah, I certainly, I think, Delegate Griffith, I mean, I'll be interested to see your op-ed, but I think you're spot on. There's that intrinsic value in having that community police officer, that SRO, in that community and familiar. As all, you hear about that all the time with community policing. We need the police to know the people in their area and their citizens, and that's exactly what SROs are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, looks like I don't see any other questions for Sheriff Gaylor. So again, Sheriff Gaylor, thank you for coming on today and speaking with the delegation about all the police reform bills. And we look forward to, your continued communication with us to keep us on the right track. And we'll keep up the good fight. So thank you again. And Eric.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your time, and stay well.
Thanks. Okay, so looks like Charity did send me a text on Delegate Johnson's question about the TIPS program. So on that, the cost of the TIPS training is somewhere between $15 to $40. And that depends on the actual program within the counties and the type of licenses. So it's anywhere from $15 to $40 per employee. The online course is generally $40. I also have Judy, my chief of staff, also got something right out of the Harford County alcohol guidelines and regulations. So we will send this out to you via email. Cindy can do that after the meeting. And it just gives you a little bit more additional information of what Harford County does. So we'll send that out, but the cost is anywhere from 15 to 40. Okay, and do we have any other, I do want to, on the agenda, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. The Harford County Scholar Dinner or Scholar Reception that we usually do every year. I'm assuming that we're only going to have to do what we did last year. We're not going to probably be able to meet in person because they're only going to start opening one day, then 2 days, and not full-time until September. So I'm sure we're not going to be able to do a live version of our reception for our students. So we can either just send the citations like we did last year, because I'm assuming the schools have sent out applications and, have the 3 scholars from each high school. We can do that. Or we could do something virtually. It's, something for you all to think about and maybe bring that back up next week. Okay. And that's the end of all. I see Delegate McComas has a question.
I would suggest that we do the citations and that we make the decision now, because the less we have to deal with, because we're going to have major problems here very shortly. a tsunami of bills. And I make a motion that we just do the citations with the wonderful letter. And I think they'll appreciate that. And actually, it'll maybe be historic because it's during a pandemic and every 100 years. So that might be worth that paper might be worth some money.
All right, so Delegate McCombs has a first. We have a second.
Archon second.
Okay, Delegate Archon second that. And so Cindy, if you want to take the,
Delegate McComas,
Aye.
Delegate Arcan,
Aye.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Impalaria. Delegate Impalaria, you're muted. Delegate Johnson,
Aye.
Delegate Lasanti,
Yes.
Delegate Shalega,
Yes.
Delegate Riley.
yes,
The motion passes.
Delegate Impalaria one more time. I'm not sure if he's still on.
I don't see him on anymore. Delegate,
Okay. Okay. All righty, but the motion does pass. All right, we will send citations to those. We'll reach out to the school to make sure that they have those applications and we'll get those citations out. So, all righty, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, second. All right, thank you, everyone, and see you on the floor.
who, Teresa, who was the second?
Second was, I believe,
Was it Delegate Arcan?
yes, yes.
Thank you.
And Cindy, would you close so I can try that other method?
I'm trying.